Okay, today we're going to look at the circular flow model. The circular flow model basically tells us how the economy works in a market economy. In a true market economy, government doesn't exist in terms of their influence in the economy as a whole. So one thing I want you to do is you can go into Notability and you're going to create a new note and title it Circular Flow Model. Or, circular flow diagram. And if you are doing now you can resize everything, but typically I have students create their note in a landscape version and not necessarily in a portrait version. Okay, so I would give yourself some room and I would write circular flow diagram up at the top, just like that. I'll erase that. So, how does the circular flow diagram work? What does it do? The model takes a look at three different actors. An actor being somebody that engages within the economy. So the first one that pretty much all of us know about is going to be a household. So if I draw my household here, draw a door and maybe some windows. Don't make fun of my drawings. It is what it is. The second economic actor is a business. So I'm going to come over here to the other side and I'm going to draw my version of skyscrapers. Again, don't judge me. Okay, so I've got my households and I have my businesses. Okay, those are two of the main factors. We'll get into government here in just a little bit. If you are looking at your circular flow diagram, how does it fit on your paper? Well, you've got the title up here, and then I'm not going to go all the way to the edge of the paper or the edge of the screen, but I'm going to put households pretty close to the edge, and I'm going to put businesses pretty close to the edge. But you have to leave room because we're going to still put something next to the businesses. So we're still going to put something here, and we're still going to put something over here. So you have to make sure that you leave enough room. I'm going to keep this up here for now so that you can kind of see where you need to kind of space things out. So in the household market and the business market, there are two types of markets, with the household actors and the business actors, there are two types of markets. The first one is the resource market. And I'm going to box that in. And again, I would put that right down here at the bottom here. Okay, so you have a resource market. That's going to be things like your factors of production. That's going to be hiring workers and everything else like that. Then we have a second one, and that's called the product market. So this product market, this is where you go to the store and you buy the goods and services. So how do we engage in that? I'm going to change colors and let's see. I'm going to go with green. I'm going to go with brown first. So in the resource market, I have an arrow coming from households to the markets. What types of things would households provide businesses in the resource market? They're basically going to be providing labor. Okay? They're going to provide we'll call it the factors of production. Factors of production. What are those four factors of production? Actually, we'll go over the three. The three factors are land, labor, and capital. Okay? We're not going to talk about entrepreneurship or anything else like that right now. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change the color. When households over here provide land, labor, and capital, or you can say natural resources, human resources, and capital resources, when households provide that to businesses, they don't just provide stuff, or households don't just provide stuff for free. There's always a cost. And there's going to be some form of money payment. Those money payments are going to be in the form of like a salary, a wage, possibly like rent for location. They're going to be paying some sort of money to the households for providing the resources. Businesses can't function without households. You have to have a cashier at Meijer. You have to have somebody to stock the shelves at Meijer. You have to have a teacher. You have to have something like that in order for that to happen. And households aren't just going to do that for free. So that's what we have so far, and that's in the resource market. Now, when that happens, what are businesses getting out of this? And what are businesses going to do in the product market? Well, businesses are going to take all the stuff from the resource market, and now they're going to create products. Well, I'm going to take my brown marker again because I want to keep the arrows going in the same direction. And what are businesses going to provide households in the product market? They're going to provide products. And that's going to be in the form of goods and services. Okay? Now, businesses aren't just going to provide households goods and services just out of the kindness of their heart. What do they need? Households have to give businesses something in the product market. They're going to give money payments. And I'm just going to put money signs over here. And this is what we are left with. So this is part of the circular flow diagram. This isn't the whole thing. This is just part of it. So let's kind of walk through how does the economy work. If we want the economy to grow, businesses, they have to hire workers. If they hire workers, they're giving households more money. They're giving them more money because they have to pay them for the resources that they're providing. When households get that money for working, they now have extra money that they can produce up here and they can give to businesses in return for those products. When those products are being made and they're being sold, they're going off the shelf, businesses have to replace those. In order for a business to replace them, they need to hire workers to produce more. And when they hire workers to produce more, households have more money. They have more money to spend in this economy. That's how you get that whole circular flow idea going. If, for whatever reason, households don't pay for stuff, businesses aren't getting money. If businesses aren't getting money, then they're not going to have money to hire more workers. If they don't have money to hire more workers, the workers aren't going to be providing any sort of labor or anything else like that. So households now don't have any more money. And again, when households don't have money, they don't have any money to spend in the product market. That also means businesses don't have to replace the things that are still sitting on the shelves. So this is how a market economy works. And you can take a look at what happened in the year 2020 with the COVID pandemic. All the businesses shut down. at least for a period of time, or a lot of businesses shut down for a period of time. Well, what happened? A lot of households got laid off. They didn't have any money. They couldn't spend money in the product market. Businesses had to either lay off more workers or suspend what they're doing, and the whole cycle continued. All right? That's the basic idea of the circular flow. Now we're missing one major economic actor, and that's going to go right here in the middle. And again, don't mind my drawings. Yeah, that's close enough. That's supposed to be a dome. Okay. So now we have the same type of thing with government. We have households have a relationship with government, and businesses have a relationship with government. There's a product market, which is going to be up here between households and government. There's going to be a resource market between households and government, and that's going to be at the bottom. So how does that work? I'm going to change colors here quickly. Let's do this. What do households provide government in the product market? Money. They're going to provide them money payments. And that's going to be in the form of taxes. That could be income tax. That could be any sort of property tax. That could be a fee that you have to pay to get a license. That could be a fee. You guys are working on your business projects. That could be a fee that households have to provide, or businesses have to provide for different types of licenses. You know, if I have to pay for my driver's license, that money comes here. And then in return for that, let's not use that one yet. And in return, wow, that no longer works. I am going to have to use this one. So in return for that, what does the government provide households? They're going to provide services. And that could be in the form of roads, national defense, police, parks, all sorts of stuff. Okay? Well, how does the who works for the government? People do. How does government give households money? This is some form of money payment. How does the government give money to households? That could be in the form of money payment for salary, because you have to pay your workers salary, wages. Sometimes this could be things like transfer payments. So like different welfare programs. This could be Medicare, Medicaid, that type of stuff. So government can help sometimes pay households. Well, in return for that, what do households provide government? The households are going to provide government with factors of production. They're going to be your police officers. They're going to be the secretaries that work in the police department. They're going to be different government officials. Okay? Now, businesses, it's basically going to be the same thing, where you are going to have businesses providing money payments, taxes, fees. They're going to be providing that stuff to the government, and in return, they're also going to get services. they're going to get police, roads, national defense, and that sort of stuff. And then at the same time, let's see here. Let's go with red. Government is going to provide businesses with money payments What are they providing those money payments for? Well, they're going to provide those money payments basically for different services and everything that businesses create. They will sometimes give them, now these are going to be your goods and services. They're going to provide different types of contracts and everything for businesses to provide. The government doesn't make their own computers. They get their computers from, not necessarily Microsoft. Microsoft provides a lot of the software, but they'll get their computers from HP or they'll get them from Dell or something like that. But this is the government. This is when you add in the government. Now, right now in 2020, we're going through a national election. And you're going to hear both sides. They're going to talk about what they are going to do to get the economy going again. You may hear one side saying that we're going to cut taxes. One side is going to say that we're going to raise taxes. And that's going to work. According to the basic model, the basic idea of the circular flow, they're both kind of right to a certain degree from a basic model perspective. Once you start getting into the nitty-gritty and crunching numbers and statistics and data, things are going to change. But let me walk you through a couple things. Let's say one particular party says, we want to cut taxes. Okay, great. How is cutting taxes good for the economy? Well, if we cut taxes, what does that mean that households are now having? That means they're not paying the government as much, which means now households have more money of their own. So what does that mean households can do? Up here, they have more money that they can spend in the product market, and they're going to spend that with businesses. When they spend that in the product market, businesses have to provide the goods and services, and that means that businesses are going to have to replace that product, which means they're going to have to hire more workers, which means households are going to actually end up working more. And if they're working more, they're going to get more money. If they're making more money because of this tax cut, or if households are getting more money because of the tax cut, more people are employed, that means that actually more households will be paying taxes. And if more households are paying taxes, then the government can expand a little bit. They can provide more goods and services. Maybe the government can expand police officers. Maybe they can expand different services that they provide, which means households now have more money, which means now they can pay more in the business. That's how tax cuts can be beneficial. Okay? How can raising taxes be beneficial for the economy? And it's the same thing. If households get taxes raised, they're paying more money into the government. If they pay more money into the government's able to provide more services. They also can provide and expand their police force. They can have more jobs and create more things for the workers. Well, who are the workers? Well, they're providing more income now for households because households are paying more money to the government can hire and they can get a little bit larger. That means households now have more money, which means they can now spend more money in the product market, which means businesses now have more money that they can pay people to produce more products, which means households are actually going to be paying more money in taxes. And this whole thing spirals out of control. So cutting taxes, good. Raising taxes, good. According to the basic model. We're not crunching numbers or anything else like that. I know that there's theoretical things that can go into this, but this is the argument that both sides would end up taking. The other thing that happens is, how can cutting taxes be bad? Okay? If you cut taxes, that means the government, and you're going to see, we're going to be able to make all four basic arguments of what doing something with taxes, whether or not it's good or bad. But if you cut taxes, how is that bad? That means households are now paying less money into the government. If they're paying less money in the government can't produce goods and services. If they can't produce the goods and services, households aren't getting paid by the government, so like your police officers, your military, stuff like that. And that means that households aren't able to spend money in the product market, which means businesses aren't getting money from their constituents, or excuse me, from their customers. And then businesses, because they're not getting any money, they have products sitting on their shelves. They don't need to create new stuff. And they're not going to hire more workers. They're going to lay people off. And that means even less money is going to go to the government. And that whole thing just goes away. That's one way that cutting taxes could be bad. How can increasing taxes be bad? Again, you've got more money going to the government. However, because you've got more money going to the government, households can't buy the stuff that they normally want. And then the whole cycle continues. The whole thing, you can start over here with businesses, and I can start with, how can increasing taxes be good? Well, if you increase taxes, all this stuff happens, and then businesses end up getting... It's a circular argument. Both sides, for the most part, are providing sound bites and saying what people want to hear, because this is what we generally understand. It gets way more complicated once you start diving deep into the social issues. You start diving deep into the actual plans itself between the two parties or independent parties or whatever it is. But it is a basic premise of what happens with the circular flow diagram. You guys are going to do an assignment today. Well, maybe, depending on when you are watching this. But you guys are going to do an activity today to see how different things in different situations could end up impacting the economy. A lot of this is how you explain it. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty thing of whether or not candidate A's plan is better than candidate B's plan. I don't necessarily care. You need to know the basic premise of what they're saying, and is that accurate or is that inaccurate, and why. So that's what we're going to look at today. This is the basic model of the circular flow, and this is how a true market economy works. Okay? Again, if we lived in a true market economy, the government's not necessarily that involved. But that's not necessarily realistic. There are no true market economies that actually exist as a collective nation. So we are going to go with what the U.S. has and how this does work. Eventually, when we get it to the next unit, we will also add in exports and imports, and we'll actually add in banks as well. But this is the basic circular flow diagram. If you have any questions, please let me know. We are going to be working with this throughout the rest of the trimester, and hopefully this model will kind of stay ingrained in you. You may see different models on different on different standardized tests, but this is one model that we will look at, and we will use this on a couple different occasions. All right? So until then, take care. See ya.